Welcome to the Luna Syncrasy podcast, where we honor our cycles and the magic of the moon.
Welcome back to the Luna Syncrasy podcast.
I've been so excited about thinking about how all of the cycles of our lives, they really take the feminine energy of rest and being and coming up with ideas and mix it with the masculine energy, which is a much more of a doing energy. When I was thinking about all of these different cycles, the first thing that came to my mind was that everybody kind of has their own innate mixture of masculine and feminine energy. And so when I thought about that, it was really along our birth charts. So a couple of episodes back, we had talked about the sun, moon, and rising. And those big three signs really are important to who we are as people. So if you have fire or air signs, those are more of the masculine energy, while the earth and water signs are more feminine. So you can look at your sun, moon, and rising and figure out from there, like how masculine or feminine your natural energy is. And then along with that, something that's been very intriguing to me is the human design arrows. So if you pull a chart, I like to use Jovian. I'll put a link in the show notes and down below. But there's these 4 arrows up at the very top, kind of like on either side of the head in the little diagram. And so they'll either be pointing left or right. And those arrows, if they're pointing left, that means that you have a more masculine energy and a like, let's do things, let's create structure. I like routine, whereas a right-facing arrow is much more free flow. Let's see what happens. I like variety. I don't like routine. I don't thrive in routine. And so if you pull up your chart, you can kind of get an idea of how many left-facing arrows and how many right-facing arrows you have. And so between the sun, moon, and rising and those 4 arrows, we have a really good idea of your natural makeup of masculine and feminine energy. And what's funny is I looked at this for Andrea, who's on our last podcast episode, and she is a very feminine energy, and she has more left-facing arrows than I do. So obviously this isn't going to be something that says who you are, but it's something interesting to think about, because if in our charts, in her case, let's say, she has all of these left-facing arrows. So to me, that means that bringing some structure into her life and doing more of the masculine is going to feel really good to her. And maybe it's not natural, but doing the opposite thing is probably something to really try. And it can go the other way too. So maybe you're somebody who's had a lot of masculine energy and you look and you have all right-facing arrows, or out of the 7 pieces there, you have 4, 5, 6 of the feminine energy. And so that means maybe we need to take a step back and really just like breathe and feel more and do less and see what happens. And maybe that's going to increase your health, make you feel better. It'll just feel more like you. So it's definitely not something that is necessary, like, oh my gosh, I'm all right-facing arrows, I need to stop everything I'm doing and completely change my life. No, but you can just start bringing that in and see how it feels. And then another aspect of this, besides who you really are and who you are natally and what your energy is most likely to like to do, is that each day we have kind of a mood or a background of what the energy is like in our lives. And so that's kind of more of the day to day. So no one is going to be able to go all of the time. But like if we can follow the energy of the day and kind of take it in the waves, it's all going to feel so much better. So obviously, one of the biggest ones for me is the menstrual cycle. So we've talked about this one a lot, but we'll say that if you just finished your period, through ovulation, you are primed to go. So that is the time of masculine energy where you can keep going, become super mom, do all of the things. So you're going to have a lot more masculine energy at that time. After ovulation, this is a little interesting. I feel like some people can keep going for maybe about a week, maybe not at the same level. It's almost a neutral time because you don't really have to feel into like just completely stop and you're not feeling all of that feminine energy yet, but you also don't have as much energy as you did in the follicular and ovulation phase. So I would say first week of luteal is neutral. And then after that, when you're approaching your period, that's really when we're going to go back into the feminine energy. I think a lot of women can feel that. We're starting to just not feel very well. Our energy is decreasing. And if we can take a step back and do less, it is going to feel better. And then when we have our period, it's really, I know people hate having their period, but there's something about the energy. If you actually feel into it, it feels so expansive to me as somebody who has such high masculine energy. When I can actually take a break and stop, I feel it in my body. It feels so powerful. And I can get so many good ideas when I have my period, and like giving ourselves that space is so important. So having your period last week of the luteal or like the week leading up to your period, that's a definite feminine energy. And I truly think that this one, if you're only going to look at one thing, this one is the most important, because if you have a menstrual cycle, and not everyone does. So if you're on birth control, this doesn't work for you because your hormones are not cycling the same way that a natural cycle would. So then definitely just go to the moon. But if you have a cycle, this really is how our energy is working. And then the rest of it is all kind of in the background. But then there's the moon phase. And so the moon phase mimics the menstrual cycle. And when Cassie and I were talking about the different witches and how all of the energies work together, that's kind of how all of this started for me. How do all of these different cycles pile up on top of each other? With the moon cycle, it really is following the menstrual cycle. But depending on where you menstruate within it, it's just going to be different. And so I will put a link to our episode about the different witch types. And so you can kind of see how those two play together. But you can look at where in the moon phase you are and whether that is a masculine or feminine energy as well. In addition to the phase of the moon, we can also talk about the sign of the moon. And so the same way we did with our natal sun, moon, and rising, where the moon is at any given time is also giving us a flavor of the day. So there are, if it's a fire or air sign, then everybody's emotional mood is going to be more in the masculine. Whereas if it's a earth or water sign, everybody's mood is going to be more in the feminine. And so the day I release this episode is going to be the new moon in Cancer. So that's going to be a very feminine time. New moon, there's absolutely no moon in the sky. That is basically like the same energy as having our period. So things are just going to be coming to us. We're not going to be wanting to do a lot of things. And Cancer is a water sign that is all about feelings and our family, and really it's such like a loving sign. And so the energy of today, if you're listening to this on the day we release it, then yes, it's going to be a very feminine day. And getting a whole bunch of things done probably isn't going to feel very good. Along with the moon, we can look at where the sun is. So where is the current sun? The sun stays in a certain sign for a month. So new moon in Cancer, that means that the sun is in Cancer too, and it has been for about the last 3 weeks. It's going to be moving on in about a week. So this feeling lasts for a month, and it's not as strong as, say, the menstrual cycle or the moon, but it is giving us a flavor to our month. And so we can look at that as well. And then going even further is the seasons. So between spring and summer, it's just very natural for us to want to be outside and get things done, just have more of that masculine energy. Whereas when the trees start losing their leaves and things start getting colder, we're inside of our houses more. And so that season gives us a small energy as well. I like to think about it because I know that personally, I feel so different in the summer and winter. We all do. We don't feel as good when it's winter and we don't have that sunlight. When there's so much sunlight, we just naturally are going to want to do more. And so we have to think about that as well. And so I'm really excited about this, and I am starting to post about what is the mood, how are all of these things playing together on my Instagram. Obviously, I can't include the menstrual cycle. That's something for you to throw in for yourself. So if it's maybe, let's say, out of the moon sign, the moon phase, the sun sign, and the season, there's those 4 that I'm going to be posting on Instagram each time that they kind of change, so we can get a feeling of what the mood is for everybody. You can throw in your menstrual cycle on top of that, because I think that that's one of the most important things. But right now, as I'm recording this, we're kind of in a balanced position. So it's like 2 things are feminine, 2 things are masculine. Wherever you are in your cycle would kind of be the tiebreaker. So if you are in a masculine phase, then I bet you would feel better to get some things done, but give yourself some space as well. If you were in a feminine part of your cycle, it's probably going to feel good to take a little step back, do a little bit less, and take some time for yourself. And obviously this is a little bit different too if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. So it was funny. I woke up this morning and I was like, oh my gosh, what about the Southern Hemisphere? It's totally different. And I know I have friends in Australia and South Africa who are probably looking at these things like, oh, it's totally different for me for this season. And again, that's like a longer period, because right now we're in the middle of a 6-month period of masculine energy in the Northern Hemisphere. But if you are interested in this and interested in looking at what exactly the mood of the day is, or what your natal makeup is, I have a new ebook that I'm going to link below. I'm very excited about it. I've just kind of summarized everything that I just talked about and added a little space for you to mark down exactly what your makeup is for the natal and then also for the daily. And so you can just kind of start to look at this each day, or take a look at my Instagram to see what the daily mood is, and then just start planning around that. Even if you were to look ahead, it's really funny. This weekend, I'm going on a canoe trip, and it's just a whole bunch of people. But when I'm looking at the mood of the day, it's a much more feminine energy, and I'm interested to see what's going to happen. So if we have all of this Cancer energy, I feel like there might be a couple of fights. I feel like people are going to be crying. But we will see. We will see what happens. So, but what I'm saying is you can plan things in advance. So if you knew you were planning a weekend like this, you could do it around maybe a more masculine energy or a more balanced energy, rather than a more inward, I want to be quiet, I feel better when I'm not talking to people energy. Looking ahead is going to make things just feel better when you're planning different things. And then it's also like, let's say you naturally have a lot of masculine energy and the day is very masculine. So there's just you're going to feel like I can go, but it really is all about balance. So maybe that's not actually going to feel good to you. Maybe it's going to feel like you're burning yourself out. So that's also good to know, is the energy is all pushing you to be very masculine, but maybe you do need to just give yourself a little break. Like, yes, I see all of this masculine energy, but I'm going to bring in an extra long meditation or something, or I'm just going to take a nap in the middle of the day so that I can give myself that break. So there's things like that it's just awareness is key. Thinking about ways to balance yourself is really going to help. And so I would love it if you downloaded the ebook below and let me know what you think. I'm really excited about the way this is all coming together, and I would love to hear any feedback. Thank you for being here, and I hope to see you next time.
Bye-bye.